Okay, so the wait is over. Thank you very much for your patience. I'll pass on the floor to our moderator or the master of ceremony, Sabina. Sabina, could you please first mute yourself?
Aye.
Perfect, thank you. And over to Sabina now.
Okay, I hope you can all hear me. Welcome to the panel discussion on the future of knowledge platforms. It is something that keeps us busy in the project very much, and we wanted to extend the discussion to a larger audience to see what's out there and what are the trends and what we could do. Working. Okay, this is so cool. So we have different kinds of knowledge platforms. All of these platforms want to be interconnected and serve their customers. But how are we going to do that in the future? We only have project money. We make platforms for 4 years, and after that, they're not maintained. There is no future. How are we going to do that? There are lots of platforms around. There is a lot of knowledge on this platform. And how are we going to harvest what is in there and keep it updated in any case? So this is the question we were looking into this thing. And I would like to introduce Alejandro, who is from IITA in Nigeria, to introduce shortly the project, and then to introduce the panel. The panelists will introduce themselves, and we have two questions prepared. I'm missing something in my presentation, and I don't know what, but oh yeah, Alejandro will moderate the session in the and give the word to everybody during the panel discussion, summarize at the end. Well, thank you, Alejandro, for doing this for us.
Yes, thank you, and I hope that everyone can listen to me, can hear me. So my name is Alejandro, and I work for the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture in Nigeria. We are the coordinators of the Food Safety for Africa project. I'm going to be giving just a brief introduction about what the project is about. Next one, Sabine, please. Yes, so this is a project that deals with foodborne diseases. This is a major concern in African countries. And there is an estimation by the World Health Organization that approximately 137,000 deaths occur on an annual basis, but also over 90 million cases of acute illnesses also occur. And the reason for this, most of this is because of the lack of regulations or enforcement of regulations. Markets are fragmented. It's very difficult to enforce any legislation, and not only to enforce, but actually to detect contaminants or pathogens in different food matrices. So the project, next one, please. The project is designed to address the urgent call for improvements in policy, in enforcement of legislations, also on testing capacities for being able to enforce those legislations, have a food safety culture to enhance whatever this is not available, to also facilitate trade and market access, and most importantly, also to put into practice innovation and research to address these challenges. There are two major project outcomes. One of them is to foster international collaboration and coordination with a view to improve the informal sector on the African continent. And the second one is to decrease the health and economic costs to society and all of those trade opportunities that are lost because of food safety issues. So it is the view of a project to improve small and medium-sized entrepreneurs that are involved in different value chains, and also to not only those ones that produce the food, but also those ones that sell their foods in different settings across the country. So with this context, I would like to have each one of the panelists a brief introduction about their name, their organization, also what their job is about, and what is the platform that they will introduce. So please let us have a brief introduction by each one of you, and let's start with Peter.
Good morning, everyone. Peter Schalstraat. I'm the co-founder of Ubuntoo. Very unfortunate that I'm not in Barcelona. I would have loved
Sorry,
to be
Peter,
there.
give us a minute. There's a audio in the room challenge. The voice is a bit scattered. Could you try to speak again? We'll see if the audio is clear in the room now.
Okay. How about now?
Still,
Better?
it sounds scattered.
Okay. Let me try without the headphones. See whether that works. How about now?
Meanwhile, the person is trying to resolve. Apologies for that. Alejandro, could you ask another panelist to
Yes.
introduce themselves?
Yeah,
Thank you.
So let's go with Jack, please.
No, your audio is, we can all hear you, and also the online audience. How do I resolve it?
So let's. Are we okay now? Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to Peter, please.
Okay. How about now? Is it better?
Yeah, everyone can hear you mildly from my laptop, but yeah, I hope you'll be visible. Please go ahead.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yes. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I could not make it to Barcelona. Would have loved to be there. So calling in from US, I'm the co-founder of Ubuntu. And what we do at Ubuntu is we leverage collective intelligence, which is a combination of artificial intelligence and human expertise to provide better access to environmental solutions, best practices, knowledge, intelligence. And so we, one of the things we do
Can
is-
someone stop him?
Can
Yeah.
you hear me okay? Sorry, there was someone talking. Is it okay? Can I continue?
Yes, absolutely. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
okay, wonderful. So, and so one of the products that we have that I'll be showing in a minute is platforms that are highly curated platforms with a very specialized curated knowledge database on which we apply search large language models to make that access to this intelligence very, very easy. So I'll be able to show that in a minute. Should I show it now, or do we wait till all the introduction happen?
Just after the introduction, but
Okay.
Everyone was able to understand.
No. No.
Unless you're good at reading the lips, but
Upstairs in Amsterdam the other day.
But this it's recorded and will be available.
Yes, so the session is getting recorded.
We can also have the transcript.
Yeah.
And then we can.
yes. So Peter, I think someone is trying to fix this. Let's see if we can go back to your introduction. In the meantime, let's go with Inder, please.
Yep. Thank you very much. Indra Kumar. I'm from Digital Agri Hub, the platform which is hosted and maintained by Wageningen University Research. The platform started in 2021 and was originally funded from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, US aid and UK aid. And after a successful incubation period of 1 year, the ownership was taken over by Wageningen University Research. And since then, we have been maintaining the platform. And what we do, we are a knowledge broker in digitalization for agriculture sector in low and medium income countries. I'll talk more about that in my presentation. But very briefly, we generate data and insight at the sectoral level, and then try to provide the insights that how can we harvest the potential of digitalization in agriculture for small-scale producers, women, and youth. So that's in brief about me and the organization. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Inder. And now let's go with Daniel, please.
Thanks a lot. My name is Daniel Kopot. I'm coming from Slovenia from the Innovation Technology Cluster, and we are also managing the IITA report. So we are basically a link between academia and the sector, working closely with farmers and agricultural advisors and other stakeholders in the food system, and covering the whole project work strategy as a place-based innovation ecosystem. And therefore, you can imagine we work on many different platforms and applications, starting from the collaboration platform, which is a kind of a mapping tool which is being facilitated by DIH facilitators, and then towards data-driven platforms and data space, which is a kind of a community-driven platform in terms of sustainability, of course, which is a very important aspect. So I will say more later. Thanks a lot.
All right, excellent. And are we checking the sound again, or we continue?
Okay, I can give it a try. I'll switch to the room audio. Let's see. Peter, would you mind being the test again and try to speak?
Yes, yes. 1, 2, 1, 2 is working.
Okay, it's still the issue. Apologies. So we'll switch back to my. So I'm back to now my laptop's audio and not to the room audio. It's scattered. Okay.
Okay, do you want me to? I think. Peter,
Yes.
is it okay if we switch to the demo in the meantime? The
Well,
video you sent?
well, I'd like to give some more context first, actually. That it's
I know.
One second, Peter. It's
Okay.
getting better. Yes.
Okay.
Peter, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yay.
Oh, wow.
It took a
Okay.
while, but we made it work.
Isn't it amazing when technology works? So, so I see, shall I introduce myself again? Is that
Please do so.
okay? Okay. So, good morning, everyone, and a pleasure meeting you. I would have loved to be in Barcelona with you. Unfortunately, I'm in the States now, and I'm the co-founder of Ubuntu. At Ubuntu, what we do is we focus on leveraging collective intelligence, the combination of artificial intelligence and human expertise to provide over time, or in some cases already now, exponentially better, faster, better quality access to solutions, and mostly environmental sustainability solutions, best practices, intelligence. So from the beginning, which we started 6 years ago, we started developing these platforms that we developed for the likes of UNDP, IUCN, World Fair Trade Organization, and then we were also invited to develop the platform for the Food Safety for Africa project, Horizon Europe project, and very happy to be part of that consortium. And we also started a second project with more or less the same members in November. I'll wait now, and then we'll look at the Food Safety for Africa platform in a couple of minutes.
Now Sabine is going to show 10-minute demo of the platform.
Sabine, do you want me to show my slides and then look at the platform?
I think that's better. Please do that.
Okay. So I'll share my slides. Give me 1 second to share my screen. And please let me know if you can see this.
Yes, your slides are visible.
Okay, wonderful. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a context of how we're setting up the platform. Most of you are aware about how these Horizon Europe projects are being managed. So we have different work packages and different use cases. So with all of our consortium members, most of which are in the room also, we have different work packages. We are leading, together with the University of Pretoria, work package 2, which is about knowledge development and dissemination. And the reason why I show these work packages is that we, the knowledge platform really works in support of the work packages and use cases. And the use cases are very technical in nature, right? So it talks about aflatoxin management. It talks about certain crops like tomato and leafy greens, fish production, and what have you not. So essentially what we do is, on the basis of the search for each one of the work packages and each one of the use cases, we mine a massive amount of data. And you see here on the left, we mine data related to technologies, companies, startups. That's a database of more than 20 million. We mine more than 100 million IP filings, academic articles, and more than 1 billion regular articles. And just to make sure that we cover worldwide the best that there is, or the most relevant information, intelligence on these very specific use cases and work packages. And then we, very important, because that's a massive amount of data, then we curate this together with University of Pretoria. So essentially what we do is we, at Ubuntu, we first take out the false positives. We do an initial selection, and then we review that selection with the team of the University of Pretoria, and they help us making sure that everything that goes into the database of the platform is highly curated, highly credible. On top of that, each one of the work packages has one curator, and each one of the use cases have a curator also. So the curators of these work packages and use cases can also recommend technologies, academic articles, posts, blogs, and what have you not. So that's kind of how we do this. On the right side here, we are trying to, and this is something that we started now, because the project started in January. Important to say, the project started in January, and we were supposed to launch the platform only in January of next year, but we launched it at the beta version of it in July. We're trying to reach out to organizations that have bottom-up, very practical knowledge, because the one on the left, the search that we do is primarily top-down English language literature that has been officially published. But we all know that some of the best, most practical knowledge when it comes to agriculture in general and agriculture in Africa sits inside of organizations, sometimes in the heads of people. Sometimes it's tacit knowledge or great literature, research reports that have never been published officially, but might have sit somewhere hidden, let's say, in databases. And our intent of this project is also to tap into this bottom-up knowledge, which is very, very important to strengthen the database. I won't go too much into detail, but we're using retrieval augmented generation. So all the data that we have in the platform is vectorized. And whenever we have a question coming into the search bar, which is large language model enabled, the question is converted to vectors, and then we do matching of the question to answers. And then we send the best 10 sources inside of the database, our own database, back to a large language model, then that summarizes it into an answer. And that's how this works. So let me show you how exactly this works. So this is the, actually, let me get out of the demo first. Sorry, get into, I imagine you see now the Food Safety for Africa platform, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the way it works is we look into solutions. These solutions tend to be technology solutions or best practices. Then we have knowledge posts, reports, sometimes academic articles. We also have news. We decided in the last meeting of the Food Safety for Africa advisory board that we'll also start sending out newsletters, so people in that sign up can actually also benefit from everything that's happening in this space. So I won't go too much into detail, but you ask it the question, for example, let's say, which countries in Africa have been able to make significant progress on food safety and how has it been achieved? And again, essentially what we do is the large language model, the retrieval augmented generation goes into the curated database and searches for the best articles and then summarizes those articles. So it's kind of 10 solutions, 5 solutions, 5 articles that are really relevant to this question. So for example, according to the data that we have in the platform, which again we're building up because we only started in January. There's a couple of countries like Ghana, Malawi, Morocco, Rwanda that have been able to do so, and they've done that by a combination of these factors, right? So the policy innovation, capacity building, public-private partnerships, consumer awareness, invest in infrastructure, tech adoption. And the cool thing about it is you don't just get the answer, you also get access to the origin of the answer. So you get access to articles on food safety for Africa, for example, the World Bank. So you can then click into the origin of this answer and learn more, right? So you can go to the origin according to the FAIR principles. We wanted to make sure that the FAIR principles of data management, which include the fact that you want the data to sit at the origin. So we actually have a click through to the origin of the article. So we have that happening. So this is just one answer, but you can ask examples of technology innovations. You can ask, for example, in one of the recent discussions we had with the team, we said, well, is there any indication that people in Africa are willing to pay more for safe food? So I asked that question also to the platform and said, yes, there is a willingness. And for example, there's been a study in Kenya on safer pork, and they showed their willingness to pay more and so forth. So you can actually interact with your database in a very interactive way. The other thing I'm going to say is you can also, if you're interested in this, you can create your own collection on very specific topics. So everyone who's part of this platform and you want to dig deep into, for example, double click into aflatoxins, then you say, well, I want to make a collection about aflatoxins, and you have these articles and you create your collection. It's a little bit like a Spotify playlist, and you bring in solutions, articles, news about aflatoxins and create your own collection, and you can invite colleagues. I won't do this here, but it's taking, in principle, it takes 2-3 minutes to create a collection. It's like a Spotify playlist, which is also really nice. Now, we beta launched this in July, And about 2 weeks ago, we had about 225 members. The initial phases, the members would be the extended team of the Food Safety for Africa Consortium. But we've already seen that additional members have joined because we had some launch events. Additional members have joined. I think about 60% of those, if I'm not mistaken, are members from Africa. And they include academics, researchers, innovators also, food safety campaigners, sustainable managers, professors, and what have you not. And so yes, and right now we have about 2 weeks ago at least, we had more than 100 solutions. We had about more than 400 knowledge posts, news, and of course this is it will continue to build over time, quite hopefully exponentially. And the question that we'd like to discuss is we want to make sure that this platform is the home also for a very practical, tacit knowledge, great literature, practical bottom-up knowledge. And this is the discussion of today because I've seen also digital agri-hubs, smart agri-hubs. There's been so many initiatives already. There's the platform CG Spaces also from CGII that it looks to be very interesting, and we'd love to interconnect, make sure that we capture the best relevant knowledge from the past also, and make sure that we tap into that knowledge and vice versa. So that people that are connected to digital agri-hubs, smart agri-hubs, are able to access all the knowledge of the Food Safety for Africa platform and vice versa. So that's kind of the discussion I'd like to discuss with the team. So let me stop here and hand it back over to you, Sabine.
Well, thank you very much. And I think the next part is going over to the to the point where we want to learn from other platforms. And for that one, I would like to ask Jacques to introduce a little bit on smart agri-hubs now. And I'm trying to get my screen shared again. So, okay, this is not what I wanted. Sorry, I got into your presentation now, but can't get out of it. Let's see. Okay. You have all kinds of modes in here, so I hope this is working well. It's not screening. Okay.
As we wait for Sabine to share the slides, Peter, are the solution also including policy solution? You mentioned some survey about willingness to pay, but what is currently in the database in terms of policy solution?
Yes, the policy solutions indeed. So the work package one is one on regulation and policy. So we are working indeed with work package one to map out policy solutions and best practices, and what has been working where, and what does that include specifically. The large language model and curated database tend to be very good on policy. Also, we've done a lot of experimentation on policy regulations that you can go really in depth into understanding even what are the difference between different countries on policy, what exists in terms of policy and on food safety, and so yes, we are uploading that. That's actually in the knowledge section.
Okay, thank you.
I want to see this one now. One.
Better you than me, Sabine.
Well, it's not that, it's my patient. It doesn't go. I need to find your first slide. Can you do without it? Wait. We do it differently. Yes. That's better, right?
With the presentation.
I'm trying, but then it goes to the next slide and I don't know why.
Should I try? Shall I share?
If someone from online audience can confirm if the text is readable, I think we could continue. Otherwise, Shak, feel free to share indeed.
I go on the next slide. I go onto the bigger version again.
I think it's better if Jacques shares.
Sabina, you're still sharing your screen, or?
I was, but I'm not actually. So I don't know what's happening. Dropped out apparently.
So also while we wait, I think one is that now the one?
It's working. Okay, click.
Okay.
So,
All right.
so you have heard maybe in this conference also a lot about the iOS 2020 projects, and some of you might also have been involved. And so then we had a lot of these use cases within trials where we were applying this so-called lean multi-actor approach with several actors designing, implementing, and evaluation digital solutions and creating several apps. And then we followed up by Smart Agri Hubs because iOS 2020 was a project, it stopped. And then we called these use cases innovation experiments, but that was basically the same. Yes. So, and now one back. In iWeb, we had several dedicated work packages, like Peter also just indicated for the Food Safety for Africa project. And one was more on technical support, so they were supporting all these use cases. And the other one was more, let's say, on the organizational aspects of business modeling, governance, and also later on we included ethical discussions around the digital technologies that were introduced in these use cases. But the message that I want to give is that these were also temporary work packages in this project, and when the project stopped, then also this whole organization that somehow stops. So that's where the competence centers and the concept of digital innovation hubs come in. So the idea was also that the work that is being done in these work packages in iOS 2020 is now being done in a more structural way by competence centers, which can be research organizations, universities, or maybe also consultancy companies. And we were also focusing a lot or working a lot on the development of the ecosystem, so getting the right stakeholders and partners together at the right time. And if you click that function from iOS 2020 was exactly taken over or supposed to be taken over by these digital innovation hubs, which are local organizations. And I will explain that in the next slide. You click. So we had also service maturity model for digital innovation hubs. And it all came together in this innovation portal. And of course, I added today also our new name, Synergy portal. So this is a basic picture of a digital innovation hub that has to function as a local one-stop shop. So it's acting in a local, at a local regional level. And you see it has an orchestrator function that is in the middle and trying to orchestrate all these different dots or connecting these dots. So farm communities, incubators, large companies, small companies, etc., etc. And in this example, it also includes the competence center. So very often digital innovation hubs are also competence center by themselves. But of course, as you see at the upper right, they also have to need to have connections with other competence centers, for example, to do this test before invest, because it requires all kind of infrastructure, and so they won't have it in-house. So they have to connect with other competence centers, preferably in the neighborhood, of course. But also at the lower left corner, you see very important that they also connect with other DIHs. So as you saw this morning, maybe in the plenary sessions, now we're talking about European digital innovation hubs, but the idea is still the same. And I think what you saw there also at that session is that it is very powerful if you can connect with other DIHs to exchange experiences and services even, so to reuse the knowledge. And everything, of course, should result in new innovation experiments leading to introducing new technology into markets. Go to my last slides. And so this is a snapshot of the innovation portal. And as you can see, of course, we started with smart agri hubs in Europe. But this picture also indicates that we want to reach out and see if we can create one big network. Of course, these will be networks basically also on their own, because every continent has its own specific context. But still, the idea is also you get connected with other digital innovation hubs and competence centers also in Europe or maybe in India or Latin America, whatever. You create a very powerful network through this synergy portal, as it is called nowadays. So that was some background of smart agri hubs.
Good. Now let's go to Inger.
Yes.
So the plenary this morning, Brittany and Ireland, are they all part of the quote-unquote smart agri hub ecosystem, or?
Yeah, in principle they are. But the European Commission came up with this European digital innovation hubs, and they are of course not specifically for agri-food. But as you saw also, for example, in the Finnish example of a Finnish European digital innovation hub, it's also, I think, a powerful construction, because these location-specific applications, they are not specific for agriculture, and you can reuse also a lot of other technologies coming from, or that are also applied in other domains. But in the example of Ireland, there was a strong focus also still on the agri-hub. So they combined all the digital innovation hubs from Ireland into the European digital innovation. So you see also diversity in creating and developing these things.
Are they all supported by the EU ag data space?
There is not a very strong or formal connection yet.
Okay.
But that's something that we can do in the future.
Okay, very good. Okay.
All right, thank you. Then I'll take over. So the platform which I would like to talk about is Digital AgriHub. As I had briefly touched base that the platform is currently being hosted and maintained by Wageningen University Research. But our catchphrase is what we also say, your ultimate digital solution reference hub. So what do I mean by this is that we have a long way of monitoring and tracking the evolution of digitalization of agriculture exclusively in low and medium income countries. And if we go to the next slide, I'd like to mention where we are actually coming from and why do we actually we exist. So as we are all aware that digitalization of agriculture space is quite fragmented. There are multiple initiatives happening around the world by public organizations, by private organizations. They use different taxonomy, different impact metrics. So there are different islands being formed. But if we look from the top down or the landscape level view, we see that these islands are somehow not united. And as a consequence, the ultimate penetration of these services to the smallholder farmers is lacking. And we saw that if on the right side of my screen, you see the digitalization of agriculture report, which was published in 2018 by CTA Dalberg. We are following the legacy of CTA Dalberg, which was a report about D4Ag space in sub-Saharan Africa. So we see that the sector is evolving at a really skyrocketing pace. A lot of new solution organizations are being launched every year, but a lot of organizations are also getting out of the business, maybe because they are running out of business, or the business model is not sustainable, or the project money was finished and then they did not continue. And then we saw another sectoral report, which was published last year by USAID, State of Agriculture report. And what was astonishing is to see that they captured the latest state of art reporting, but a lot of solutions which they were highlighting in their report, by the time report was published, a lot of solutions were already out of business. So that's what I meant by the state of fragmentation in the sector. And the reason is the lack of impact metrics. If we are trying to reinvent the wheel at different islands, we will not be able to have a holistic view. At the same time, technology push is major. We see AI is the new boom. But if we actually speak to a farmer, are they able to harvest the services being provided by AI or other digital technologies, for example? So that's why we come into the picture, Digital AgriHub. If we move to the next slide, then I'd like to talk a bit further that we work, as I mentioned, as a knowledge broker, and we track the evolution of D4Ag space in low and medium income countries. And we work with all the stakeholders in the sector, whether you are a solution provider, or if you are an impact investor, a government, a farmer association, non-governmental organization, or industry practitioners working with academia. And based on the data, what we capture, we have created a dashboard. So initially, I mentioned that we took the legacy of CTA Dalberg report. In 2021, when we launched, we captured a landscape view of around 320 solutions, but we have come a long way because it's a global platform in low and medium income countries, and now we are able to showcase more than 1,250 solutions deployed. What makes the Digital AgriHub unique is that we are constantly curating our database. So if you log onto the website, then you will see that there are numerous solutions which have been taken the ownership of by the solution provider. So they update their profiles on regular basis. And then we also monitor and then see how the sector has been evolving, how many solutions are out of business, how many solutions have been added in last couple of years. And then these are the insights what we are actually looking for. And then from the top down view, except Digital AgriHub, the scope is quite limited, I must say. So we capture insights for different use cases, farm management and advisory, supply chain management, digital market linkages, or digital financial services. And on the basis of that, we also try to cover crop farming, livestock, aquaculture, and agroforestry. So these are the sector we focus on. If we move to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned that we collect data and insights. So we, of course, produce blog articles. So the insight which I gave about 320 solutions at the beginning, and now 1,250 solutions. So we have come a long way, and we try to produce different blog articles, insight reports, which you can have a look on the website. But that's a lot to discuss in this small time frame. So here I'd like to share some infographics what we have developed. On the left side, you can see is the infographic what we developed for Islamic Development Bank Institute and their member state. It might not be readable, but I'll verbalize what's mentioned in the infographic. Darker blue is the color which shows the most number of solutions deployed in that region. Lighter green is the color which shows less of the number of solutions deployed in that country. So this is the high-level view which investors, donor organizations require to see how sector is evolving in different countries, what use cases are being used when I mentioned farm management or advisory or market linkages, etc. But also what sort of technologies are being used and where is this technology push coming from. And on the right side, you can also see the country level infographics, what we have developed. We are, of course, talking about food safety for Africa. So there are numerous infographics which you can explore on the website for Nigeria, for Cameroon, for Kenya, and others. But if you log on to the website dashboard, then you can easily access its database, and then you can see what country you are interested in, what technology you would like to focus on, what use case you want to focus on, and then you will get tailor-made insight what you're looking for. So I'll take a pause here now, and then I'd like to continue the rest of the insight during the panel discussion. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So please, Daniel, go ahead.
Yes, thanks a lot. I like the way how these discussions and presentations are being progressed, because basically I would like to complement where Peter and Chuck were somehow stopping, and also mentioning that, you know, Peter said that, yeah, the bottom-up approach is very important and how to feed those, I would say, platforms or platforms concept. So we are coming from EIH, and basically what we do, sorry,
EIH.
it is also an EIH.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
but in terms of platforms, in terms of sustainability, it doesn't make a big difference.
Okay.
The important thing is that you know, we are creating or developing platforms that are meeting our specific needs. It's a very bottom layer approach, because we are focusing on our target groups are farmers and also actors in food system, which are basically locally based. And if you consider we are covering the most focused region is something like 170,000 people, with around 5,000 to 6,000 farmers living in the area, and also the whole ecosystem around. So what we are focusing in is to understand the ecosystem, also to be able to, which goes beyond this local environment, of course. That's why we have created the collaboration platform. Even before the Synergy platform was born, because I was speaking to Lorena at that time when they started developing this. And the reason why we stayed at the let's say lower level of functionality, because it's still a mapping platform, is because that we have introduced the facilitation around the platform. So for us, we don't expect that the platform is doing, you know, the magic stuff, because we have to have trained facilitators to be able to understand the way how supply and demand is being met. So you need to speak to farmers, you need to speak to other actors, even beyond this local barrier, local environment. So to connect globally and be able to understand also, or to use other platforms such as Synergy platforms, such as the global platforms, in order to be able to support those local actors. But in order to connect them, you need to pretty much analyze and be able to identify what is your asset. So with the collaboration platform, and the responsibility of EIH is to basically to map the asset we are working with, you know, and of course to upgrade this asset. So that's why we are looking ways to connect to Synergy platform, to the new Safety for Africa platform, and to be able to feed local information.
Can I ask a question? Your asset is an ecosystem. How do you map that on a platform?
It's a very neat, or the functionality, as I was personally developing it with our programmers. So it's specifically meeting the demands of what we are doing as a cluster. So it maps the organizations, their assets, their products, their solutions, and we are showcasing it from different perspectives. So you can basically browse the platform, and then you can see the assets. Like when introducing demo farms, where as Shaka was mentioning, the how did you say those ecosystem, the pilots, or so we are calling it differently. We are calling it demo farms, where farmers can see how new technologies are being implemented, and they can visit those locations, for instance. So it's very specific. But on top of the cooperation platform, we are developing other type of platforms, such as, for instance, data space, which are then completely different approach. I mean, this is community-based platforms, meetings again specific demands, and on top of that we have other database applications, of course, which are also feeding the data space, and there the story is totally different. So there is always the question of sustainability, of course. What is important to say is that we are non-profit. We, of course, our business models also around those platforms are being, public funding, because there is no real business case in that. And what is the difference, or how do we approach this? We keep the platforms in the center, and we use projects in order to make sure that those platforms are becoming sustainable. So we are not linking a certain platform to a single project, but we have many different projects that are feeding and making sure that these platforms are being sustainable. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much to each one of the presenters. Now let me just make a very brief summary. You heard that one of the platforms, in this case, Food Safety for Africa, is new, still on the developing stage, while the other three platforms are, in my opinion, highly successful. And the objective of this discussion is also for us to know what conditions will lead to sustainability for our platform. And one of the comments that I was trying to make at the beginning, when we were having these issues, is we have been listening to all of this reluctance of some sectors to provide data, and what are the views also of you on how to get that data. And I'm saying this because there are many successful companies in African countries producing high quality crops, safe crops, but that data is not shared. So it's one of the two questions that we are going to be having each one of you addressing. But let's focus first on a question for Peter and for Jack on what are your views on effective ways to leverage existing tacit knowledge. I think Peter was touching base on this. That is curated, practical, diverse, and as he mentioned, also sometimes available in other languages, in Spanish, in Greek, in French, in Arabic. So what are your views for having that information available in the platform? So let's start with Peter, and maybe if you can also address that comment that I made, how to have these private sector partners sharing the data, sharing the information on what works and what doesn't work in different agroecosystems.
Alexandro, if you allow me, I'd like to add something before Peter and Jacques. I think it's very important to distinguish data and knowledge. And I think that here we talk about knowledge platform, I believe, but that is one point that is important to clarify. Because the data, it's another ball game, and that's important.
Good.
Yes, absolutely correct. And I wanted to start with that. Indeed, so far, I have not seen a lot of any reluctance to share knowledge. I think that the sensitivity might be on data, especially when it comes to very specific numerical data on very specific crops or products, and certainly when it comes to personal data, that's a whole different level. But from all the discussions and conversations we had, there's an openness of most organizations to really share it, and the lack of accessibility is really more like a tactical one, which is it's just not searchable. It's not accessible. There's no API, for example. We looked at, so together with the Food Safety for Africa teams and the extended team, where we asked the question, give us the name of an organization where you believe have really good quality knowledge on food safety, how to avoid outbreaks, on aflatoxins and so forth and so forth. And we came up with a list of close to 50 organizations. According to our first read, there's only one platform that has a API integration. So just from a technical perspective, there's only one platform where we could somehow technically integrate. So that means that for each one of the others, we would need to reach out, understand what's in the database, understand it even if it's written down, and then kind of create the links. And so it's painstaking work. It's very much more difficult than just searching existing databases by the millions and the tens of millions. There's another level, and we had I don't know whether Lisa, Professor Corson is online, but is how do we capture the data of the members? Or so not the data. How do we capture the knowledge of the members, knowledge of people that really have been working on these topics for decades, and oftentimes not written down because there's so much into implementation, execution, testing, and so forth that they might have never had the time to write down. So how do we capture that kind of knowledge? Is quite difficult. So we are in the process of testing with specifically these 3G spaces, which is recommended by IITA. Alejandro, you know probably what I'm talking about. So CGA spaces, I think, is a very interesting one, which also has an API integration, and see what we can do to provide interoperability between what we are doing and CG spaces, but then specifically on the topics of food safety. So we have reached out to them thanks to your colleagues at IITA, and I'm very open to testing a couple of models of what we can do. I think that definitely within Food Safety for Africa, there's a willingness to donate knowledge as long as the people donating also have access to the Food Safety for Africa knowledge platform, which they do, of course, because it's open access. So let me stop here and then open for further discussion.
Yes, thank you, Peter. And yes, Professor Liz is online, and she just mentioned that indigenous knowledge is key based on experience and how do we capture it, that they are looking at ways to capture that type of knowledge. Okay, let's go with please.
Yeah, that's a very nice bridge, Lee. Lisa, so thank you for that. Because that is actually what I wanted to say about this question. Tacit knowledge is very much, I think, based on experiences by local small farmers, for example. And I think it's difficult to catch it in a classic way. So it's not coming from an experiment, statistical analysis, those kind of approaches. But it reminded me of my PhD research that I did a long time ago, I think. But there I was trying to address this question by developing a product flow. And so basically, what I mean with the product flow model is that you try to model the processes that are involved. In this case, for food safety. So, what are the process steps that you take as a farmer, but maybe also the other stakeholders, the traders, and on it, and then look at the input and the output of the different processes, and see if you can identify critical control points, and that you can translate into numbers, key figures, and that are based on experience. And that the farmer said, I always keep this within this range of bandwidth, and then I know that the outcome, the output of this process is also within the right range, very concrete in this case, that it is still safe food. In my own PhD research, I had always one example of butyric acid in milk. And then I found out, talking to farmers, that it was related to the feed that they were giving to the cows. And if there were scent particles in it, then it resulted in a higher amount of butyric acid in the milk. And so that was one of the critical control points that I had to work on. And then you can try to derive best practices. How do you decrease also the scent in the feed, for example? So yeah, if you really want to include this tacit knowledge, I think you should go beyond the current approach in the knowledge hub, that you base it on private documents and reports, etc. I think then you really should go to these kind of approaches to capture this tacit knowledge. And then I think you also come into the discussion of data. So then you really have to try to collect real data from farmers and traders, for example, in our case. So I wonder if that is possible within our project. But okay,
Is Smart Agri-Hub mapping actor and also collecting data?
No. So Smart Agri-Hubs is basically the innovation portal. It's at a much higher abstraction level than the DIAs, for example, that we basically give contact points, and people want to know more about a certain DIAs or competence center. They can just call them or email them.
Okay, the data are in the competency data center.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an important piece in building the ecosystem. Yeah.
Okay, let us see if there are any questions here in the room before we go to the second question. Anyone has any comment, or anyone online?
Yeah, if I may come in.
Please go ahead.
We haven't talked yet a lot about the community that we're all creating. And I think that's a very, very important aspect of what we're doing all together. Is essentially behind the data, behind the knowledge, is also a community of people that are all connected to each other with a common purpose. One of the platforms we run is the Global Seaweed Coalition, and we started about 4 years ago, and there are 1,600 seaweed practitioners, researchers, startups, investors, and whenever they ask a question, so one of the interesting things that I hope we will be able to do also is, when one of the community members asks a question, you can actually send that question to the community and say, well, here's what we found in our own database. And you can run also large language model, and here's initially the answer based on the knowledge we have in database, but we're looking for more inputs. And I've seen that working a couple of times. In ocean health, for example, there's this community called Octo, and they send questions of members to the rest of the members, and the other members are very, very willing to participate then, because they first of all, they want to show off their knowledge sometimes, but they also feel that, well, we can help other members with these questions. So if we start from very specific questions by members, and then people are willing to contribute. And I think the combination of building a database of knowledge that is easily accessible with the human aspect of tapping into a community of members and experts that say, well, on top of what we found, here's the person you need to talk to. Here's our experience in Ghana. Here's what we did in Rwanda. And that could be a really, really good combination.
Okay, thank you for that contribution.
May
Adele, I
No.
think, wants to.
I ask you as well to comment on this one? I see community standing on your tag.
Yes, but let's.
Sorry?
Didn't. Ah, no, it's on the other side. Okay.
Okay, before going to Fadel, anyone in the room with a comment, please.
Thank you. So I see there's several digital platforms on the scene, and listening to Peter, the basic best practices are not usually available in the published papers and in the report. But those best practices are also context-based, which means that we need to get those information from those who have it, whether it's sitting in their heads or sitting somewhere. But then also we need the context within which that solution is viable. Otherwise, you would find some really nice solution elsewhere. You don't know what made it work. And so while we gather these best practices, we should also attempt to include the context within which they are workable. Otherwise, we might provide very nice solutions that are not feasible in different places. So I wanted just to add that.
Okay. Please.
Yeah, that's why we, in the iOS 2020 project, we put a lot of emphasis in describing the use cases. And so in a very rather detailed way. So, iOS was about IoT. And so we also added which kind of devices were used. But not only that, of course, but also how did it work? But also what were also the problems that they faced. So I think a rich use case description is very helpful. And then I agree, it still has to be translated to the local specific context always. But if you can share these rich use cases, I think that's also still what we're trying to do in Smart Agriculture. That will really help. I think we also entered a little bit now into the second question. So what Lorena or a colleague was showing in the very beginning in the Synergy portal, we can include our projects. But okay, it's also against, or you also need to spend some time on that. So it costs something for Scuttler in this case to do that. That will help, I think, if projects are really willing to transfer their use cases in which way to, for example, the Smart Agriculture platform.
Yeah, just a quick top up on that. Maybe it might be very useful if we have a common template of putting this data to or that information together. Otherwise, what happens is that it's each platform or each group come up with their own way of presenting it, and it doesn't sync with what other people have. So maybe as we do Synergy Days, bringing all different people together, it might be a good idea to have all of this harmonized, or maybe a common template that we all try to put the knowledge in a form that we can share across board.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to say something, Nadia?
Well, I have many things to say.
Okay.
But I'm trying to stay focused, okay? Well, first of all, there is a huge difference between knowledge platforms or mapping or collaborative platforms, which you can see the Smart Agriculture and so on, and data platforms. This is a huge difference.
Yeah.
We shouldn't mix that. It's kind of black and white because, I mean, those platforms have totally different questions about sustainability and the way how they are created. So, and on top of that, I'm hearing, I need to be critical. Every project is delivering certain kind of platforms, and you have a huge amount of projects, and you have the zillion of platforms out there. And on top of that, you have social networks and so on. Even with my workplace, I mean, and I'm in the platform business. I should be probably using 50 platforms at the same time already now, because everybody is expecting me to contribute, right? And so how much it's my time, right? It's every person's time if you want to contribute. So we probably need to have some kind of a shift in the way how these platforms. I mean, I fully agree that the Smart Agriculture platform should be the platform of platforms where the collaboration on agri-food needs to be developed. And therefore, they have different type of challenges, like who is owning the platform, like the ownership, the governance, right? The functionality is there. It's probably serving the best way the users. So this needs to be answered. But I would like to see the platforms. I don't want to visit 15 platforms and searching for information. Now, then the template comes so that Smart Agri-Hub platform should deliver templates in order to for me to log in and to present my use cases, right? In the same format. The AI could certainly help, and I agree with Peter that then these platforms should be AI driven in order to grab and to grab this information which is existing in many different DIH and other platforms, right? So this is one example, this and the challenge. The second part of the coin is the data platforms where you serve and data platforms are API based in baseline as a baseline. So we have a fully regulated. It's not harmonized yet because it's a new acts and new European strategies coming out, but they will be harmonized, API driven, and they will be serving certain aspects. And as Jürgen yesterday said from Ilvo, how should we make sure that they are used? Yeah, we should save time. We should the end user should see, and then they are willing to exchange data, right? So it's a totally different world. What we are doing is we are facing these two worlds. We are creating platforms on this side, and then we are creating platforms even in the middle of it. So, like benchmark for farmers is both ways. It's a knowledge platform being supported by the agricultural advisors, and it's also generating data. So we have data space, totally, data sharing platform which we are providing. So that's maybe my view on this very challenging aspect of platforms.
Excellent. So let's go to Fadel for a quick comment or question, Fadel, and then Ken Lojento. Fadel?
Thank you, Alejandro, for giving me a chance. I wish I were there, but given the circumstances, I'm calling from Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou. Two quick comments. Firstly, I appreciated all the presentation by Peter, Shak, and the other colleague from the IIH. I want to underscore Lauret's distinction between knowledge and data. And for us to make progress in getting what Peter you called bottom-up data, I think it requires an experiment, kind of a quasi-experimental design similar to what Jacques was talking about. It's having a process by which the players will tell their own narrative to move from tacit to explicit through documentation, or as part of our own program, we take on the challenge of doing an interview of specific categories across different geographies. This is what we are considering with HICE and DORA around the policy, the governance of food safety, where a set of questionnaires have been designed to be addressed to specific actors in 4 geographies that coincide with our use cases. I think the basic principle is a non-ACA principle, moving from tacit to explicit, which is the phase where you have now something documented, but then moving to explicit, because now we need to do benchmarking. I think otherwise the point that Misa was mentioning, unless we are able to relate to specific contexts, we may have ad hoc information. So I think that cycle of learning that we will have to embed in our processes. I think we have the provision in Food Safety for Africa, and I think through the same questionnaire applied across different use cases, and making sure that we can now ground truth this with the real actors would be the key to making progress in having bottom-up knowledge. So that's all I wanted to say, but great discussion. Back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fadel. Let's go to Ken, and then we will have to summarize and give the word to the Rex. So Ken, please,
Okay,
a quick
thank you
one,
very
please.
much. Yeah, thank you very much, colleagues, for this very great discussion. 2 points. The first one is to reiterate something that Inder has said, which is the value of the networking around the platform. I don't know if this will be very relevant for all platforms, but a platform like the Digital Agri Hub, the fact that there is a community there that is engaged and that also contribute to feeding actually the knowledge that is on the data, because the community also help to identify data sources, and that may be eventually, I would say, leveraged to update the platform. So having a community, I think it is of very great value. Of course, sometimes it is very difficult because you need to fund that or to have time or resources to animate it. But I think it is a very strong value that it can bring to many platforms that may look like the Digital Agri Hub. And I believe it is important that we don't multiply, let's say, do duplication in some cases. I was hearing Hinder saying that there has been, okay, not Hinder, somebody was telling that a couple of days ago at a meeting that there are platforms that may also want to do the same thing like Digital Agri Hub. I think we need to somehow see rather how we can strengthen platforms that seems to have the same, I would say, kind of objectives, but those platforms, they need to actually engage data owners or data curator that may exist, so that all the different stakeholders that may find value in creating data, they see the value of rather partnering with a platform maybe like the Digital Agri Hub. The second point that I want to make is just a question to Peter. I don't know how you are actually thinking about the sustainability of the platform. Maybe you have already some plans, because, for example, after this the project ends, maybe there will be I don't know the plan that you have already to, I would say, ensure the sustainability. So maybe that can also help other people to see how to work on sustainability for those kind of platforms. Thank you very much, and over to you.
Okay, thank you. And I think that comment can be addressed in another of our meetings. I think we are at the time of closing. So I will give the floor to Loretz to give a summary and also to introduce the FCI.
My summary would be very pragmatic. We have a cost proposal, Sabine, to resubmit. I think all of you here know the cost program, which is the EU networking. And it just happened that Liz, who is somewhere in cyberspace, us in Canada, we can be member of the platform, but we cannot apply. Liz from South Africa can apply. So one of the, and this is a 4 years kind of activity to advance. And the same way Homo sapiens came out from Africa, I would suggest that Homo digitalis also, we are using this cost proposal to really advance this connection between the platform. And the 2 point I would like to make is that this distinction between data and knowledge, that even in FCI Africa or FCI for Africa, we have been loosely making this distinction. I think we are at a stage now that we need to get serious. Yesterday, I was on the panel getting serious for food, but now getting serious for the distinction between data and knowledge in our ecosystem. And the other piece also in terms of viability, don't remember if it was last week in Wageningen or in some World Bank stuff I was recently, but the viability is best if it is assumed that we are building those who are delivering the support to the farmer, whether it is the extension in a developing country or whatever. And that's require a change of my mindset. Daniel was talking about change of mindset from data and knowledge, but also change of mindset from collection of projects to support to the real world. So that is essentially, I think, why we wanted to do that session as we are starting this food safety for Africa. But I've been at this for 30 years, so it's not food safety for Africa is just the last kid on the block. I think it's extremely important that we work with the guest platform in this one to see how in the next 4 years we could find a way to concretely move forward in some significant manner. So that's what I would like to leave with. And Lise, I'm calling you after this meeting. The cost is due. When is it due, Sabine?
June.
Yeah, I think so. But we had an unfunded submission from last year, so we can make it happen.
Well, thank you for that closing remark. I think it was a good discussion despite the initial challenges with the connection. I'm sorry that we were not able to go over the second question, but I think some elements of that question were discussed. And we can also continue the discussion during the rest of the meeting or email or Zoom tips. So thank you very much. Would you like to say something?
No, I just would like to thank everybody for being there. I would really like to hear about how the online experience was from this session. Probably different because the experience here we will discuss here, I guess. And the recordings will be shared as well as the presentations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, like emails.